agents, factions, and lore threads to discover. I will separate this video into categories of agents and lore on the Weifei Peninsula so that you can skip to whichever you care about most. However, since there were so many new agents, let's go ahead and talk about them first. Starting with the Yunkui summit, we have Bell and Wise who are getting new looks to match the fact that we are now training as a disciple with Yixuan at the temple. As we know, Yixuan will be teaching the siblings the way of mystic arts, so there is a lot of potential that we will see Wise and Bell become playable in the future. Yixuan, who is the current leader of the Yunkui summit and has a special title of Wayseeker. While it is stated that Yixuan is on the combat level of a Void Hunter, we are still unclear if she is a Void Hunter in full title. This is something to look forward to and uncovering in the future story chapters. Yixuan has access to a power the devs call Mystic Arts, which is stated to be separate and different from ether manipulation, for example, Astra. It also appears that she can control this inkish fluid, either by using Mystic Arts or it's a part of the arts itself. Super excited to see what this means lore-wise when it comes to seeing these new powers being introduced into the world building. More Thyrans! We have a huge-ass panda that was shown in the trailer as well. And I am so glad to see that the devs are not afraid to keep giving us full-on animals as playable agents, because it allows Zenless to continue down the road of having some of the most unique designs in any of the current Hoyo games library. We can assume that he is a part of the Yunkui summit as the color scheme matches and the fact that they have similar outfits. Also, we see him walking around with Yixuan and the next character that we'll talk about, Zhufufu! We've already met this cute little Tiger Thyran in-game during the most recent Lost Void story update. She is one of the disciples of Yixuan. She seems to have a sort of claw weapon or multiple daggers, as we can see her stabbing her food with them as she eats happily. Zhufufu seems to be a very fun and energetic character that I'm sure many will enjoy every second that she's on screen. Now, we have two characters that I'm throwing in as potential agents that could be a part of the summit, as they have a very similar design and color aesthetic to the other agents. One being this man with a long and thin ponytail that can be seen in between Wise and Bell in this shot. They made him perfectly spaced in between the siblings to bring attention to him, so I definitely think he's more than just a Weifei NPC. This wouldn't be the first time that they hinted at a thin ponytail man, as they did the same thing with Hugo back in the Astra trailer. And of course, the final agent is the one teased at the end of the trailer. We do not get to see her face when she speaks, which is kind of interesting, and the way she talks makes it kind of seem like the siblings or whoever she's talking to has a close connection with them already, so it'll be interesting to see how she plays into the story, considering she will most definitely be important to the lore, as she had her own dedicated screen time separate from the rest of the trailer. Obol Squad is finally being fleshed out. It only took a year to see the rest of Soldier 11's teammates, and man, do they look great. First up, we can mention Seed, this giant, amazing looking mech who is the intelligent construct we've known to be a part of the team for a while. Seed is mentioned in both Soldier 11 and Trigger's Trust missions, as well as in the Roaming the Ether event with Spacebar's journal. Seed is an intelligent construct who is apparently a people pleaser, which is funny because with the 5 seconds we get him on screen, he gives us a huge thumbs up. Soldier mentions that he has offered to help her with weighted push-ups and even allows Soldier to heat up her noodles using the heat from his exhaust pipes. Trigger even lets us know that he can eat, but is always changing his preferences, which means I hope we get to see him eat on screen because I don't see a mouth. Next up, we have my favorite agent that we got to see. I have a huge obsession with redheads, and Hoyo almost never makes redhead characters, so this is a massive W for me. I have to assume that this is Orpheus, or Orphe, as Trigger calls her in Trust events. She seems to have a sentient or intelligent tail as it blinks in the trailer as if it has its own identity. It's also interesting to note that the tail charges up and looks robotic, along with her horns as well. We know via Trigger that Orphe seems to like sweets, but that's about all we know in-game. Something we can maybe infer about her, though, is that Orpheus in Greek myth is someone who descended into the underworld to recover his lost wife, Eridas. This is interesting because the weapon we mentioned earlier could maybe have a soul or personality based on a dead teammate of the Obol squads. I say this because Trigger's announcement, there was a quote that is from, quote, a synthesized voice of someone once marked as deceased. If this weapon can talk, then maybe this is who was speaking in that quote. She may also be based off the Chimera, a creature in Greek myth that has a lion and a goat head with a snake tail, which she has aspects of those in her design. Finally, we may have someone who may or may not be in Obol Squad, but the look from his sword makes me think he is, even though his spikes and attire seem to be completely different, which means he could completely not be in Obol Squad. My initial thoughts are that this man could be Magus, which we know is the captain of Obol Squad currently. And before you say this is Moors, nope, this is not Moors. Moors used a sniper and did not have any aura, a vast contrast to this probably very hot man. Okay, now this is going to be a super interesting faction. This seems to be an HIA/Special Investigator faction, which means we finally get some playable agents that are just doing their job again. Let's start with the bunny. This little adorable ball of fur has a great design with a super sick weapon that appears to maybe unfold, as you can see the seams where it could disconnect, as well as the disc that would allow it to spin and lock in place. While we do not have a name for this bunny, it does say Moon on the bottom of her outfit, which could either, be a name, a nickname, or just a reference to the sea in Moon bunnies. Nevertheless, I love her design and cannot wait to see her in-game model. Next up is this normal looking hot man with the normal HIA outfit. Yep, that's all I really have on this one, besides the fact that he works for the bunny girl. But according to my chat, a lot of people are excited for this normal ass man, who we hope is John Zenless. Now, unknown faction. These are characters that could be a part of the HIA faction, but I feel like they have their own distinct look and feel like they may be a separate faction altogether. First up is Alice, and yes, I did get her name from the little hair decor she has. Another Thyran added to the list, and she seems to have a very nervous and scared personality, which works very well with her teammates who seem to like to play pranks. This redhead cutie patootie might be named Calamity, as when Alice is walking down the stairs, she proclaims in a questioning manner, "Calamity?" while seemingly looking for someone or something. Either that or Calamity is the raccoon or tanuki animal that we see playing along with the redhead's antics. Oh, also, here is an unknown turtle bangboo that we saw during the trailer. Finally, we can mention the Exaltists, and while we do not see a specific person that seems to be playable, I just wanted to add them out to round out the characters that we see in the trailer. This robed individual seems to be the new active overseer of the Exaltists as a whole. I saw some people say that this might be the creator. I severely doubt that this is the creator. I do believe this is, in fact, the new overseer. As you know, when you destroy the top of an organization, the organization doesn't go away. They just replace who's in charge. So yes, while the Swordmaster in the lore trailer did defeat the Exaltist overseer, they can easily replace it with someone new. But it'll be super interesting to see what's going on as we get into 2.0's story and see exactly what the Exaltists have been cooking up. Speaking of story, let's get into the lore bits and chunks that we know for 2.0 and its locations. 2.0 will be taking place in the Weifei Peninsula, which is located in the Throne Quarter of New Eridu. This area was built upon an oceanside cliff that oversees the Limnian Hollow, which the groups and factions within the peninsula have been tasked with overseeing. They are known for more than just protecting against the hollows, though, as this is where New Eridu's porcelain originates and is mined. Porcelain is a material that is highly resistant to ether corruption and is actually used to make multiple of our agents' weapons, including Jane and Evelyn. In fact, it's used to make up one of our agents entirely, Qingyi. Qingyi mentions in an event that she goes to the Weifei Heights, an area inside the peninsula, to retrieve new parts for her body. Porcelain seems to be a major factor in the story and the area, so be on the lookout once we arrive. The peninsula is home to many other areas, including the Filium Heights, which is home to the Subian Temple. This is where the siblings will make their new home as the disciples of Yi Xuan alongside the other members of the Yunkui Summit. The siblings will learn over time to run the temple and will be tasked to restore it to its former glory. Inside the Limnian Hollow is another area called the Aerospace City, which has long been since devoured. However, since it resides in an apparently ether-stable area at its edge, it's managed to still function in somewhat of a normal city way. This is where the porcelain is mined and produced within factories. At the end of 1.4, Sarah fled and went to the Weifei Peninsula to reconvene with the Exaltists that seemed to have a huge presence and base located in the peninsula. We managed to see a little of this base in the trailer, as it shows the new Exaltist Overseer potentially beheading one of the members with a sword, as Sarah watches with slight fear or worry. We know that 2.0 will focus more on the true plans behind the Exaltists and the true reasoning for the creation of the HDD and the siblings' eye implants. But that's everything we know so far about Season 2 for Zenless Zone Zero. What do you think? Know anything I forgot to include? Let me know in the comments below and tell me which character or faction you are most excited to see in the upcoming story. And I'll see you in the Weifei Peninsula.